I found myself transported into a tragic, melodramatic novel. Right at the point where the male lead's cherished first love has just returned. The white moonlight clutched my hand, sobbing pitifully, "I'm sorry, sister, but I just can't let go of Gavin. You've had him for 3 years now, isn't it time you gave him back to me?" Gavin produced the divorce papers. It was my fault for hurting Serena back then. My mistake. And I have to own up to it. Holding the script to the story, I couldn't help but snort with laughter. "You fool. She's pregnant and desperate to get a father's name on the birth certificate. Go on, own up to it then. Let's see if you've got anything to say after that." Before bed, I had been reading one of those infuriatingly tragic stories. The female lead was misunderstood by the male lead, abandoned, her child killed through her own mother's actions. Yet she bore it all silently as if she had no voice, ultimately committing suicide. Bloody hell. It left me utterly speechless. What did I ever do to deserve this? Why subject myself to such a tortuous plot? Well, apparently, I was asking for it because I woke up to find I had actually become the novel's female lead, Scarlett. The plot had already progressed to the part where the male lead Gavin S. White Moonlight, who also happened to be Serena S. half-sister, Isabella, had returned from abroad and was forcing the female lead to divorce. Last night, I was so furious I couldn't sleep, dreaming about how, if I were the female lead, I would slap some sense into them. I never thought that dream would come true so quickly. Truly, opportunity favors the prepared mind. Right now, my mother, Margaret, was raising her hand to slap me. In the original story, even her own mother pressured her to give up her husband for Serena. The kicker being that Serena was her father's child with another woman, Margaret. To demonstrate the magnanimity of the rightful wife, not only willingly raised the other woman's child but doted on Serena as if she were her own. She claimed she would make Serena see her as a real mother one day. That this was the ultimate victory for a woman defeating the other woman. What an utterly poisonous plot. But I'm not the original female lead. I won't stand for such pathetic treatment. So, just before Margaret's slap could land, I swiftly dodged. Margaret fell flat on her face with a thud. "OW." She howled in pain, then pointed a finger at me and shrieked, "You wretched girl. How dare you dodge?" This wasn't in the original script. I had a strong premonition that from this moment on, the gears of fate were beginning to turn anew. Serena hurried forward to help Margaret up, showcasing her gentle, kind nature to the utmost, while also managing to take a dig at me. "Sister, if you're angry, take it out on me. How could you treat Mom like this?" She was an expert at playing the innocent and stirring up trouble. Sure enough, Margaret grew even angrier, her eyes sharp as daggers, looking like she wished she could flay me alive on the spot. Margaret said, "Serena is superior to you in every way, and she and Gavin were in love. If you hadn't been such a shameless thing and ruined their relationship 3 years ago, they would have been together long ago. The position of Mrs. Eleanor belongs to Isabella. I advise you to know your place," I applauded sarcastically, worthy of a character specifically designed to torment the female lead. "Absolutely ridiculous," I retorted casually. "Why don't you give up your position to Serena's mother then?" I heard Dad and her were also deeply in love, inseparable. Margaret's face instantly turned a shade of purple red. "Sister, how can you speak to Mom like that?" Serena stepped forward to confront me, putting on a brave front despite being in the wrong. I smirked coldly. "Was I talking to her, and not you? Your mother was the other woman. And you're the other woman too. You two really are cut from the same cloth. Is it a family trait or something? Did you miss the memo on human evolution? You seem to have completely missed the chapters on basic decency and shame." As I retorted sharply, no longer the soft, easily bullied pushover I once was, the three people in front of me were stunned, especially Gavin. Although I hadn't spared him a single glance, I could still feel his scrutinizing gaze, as if trying to see right through me. Then, I saw Serena's lower lip tremble. She grabbed my hand and with a thud, knelt down. She wept pitifully. "Sister, I'm sorry, but I just can't let go of Gavin. You've had him for 3 years now. Isn't it time you gave him back to me?" Serena's face was naturally delicate and appealing, and when she cried, she looked utterly heartbreaking. She perfectly embodied the image of a fragile, helpless, delicate little white flower. Gavin's heart ached for her. He quickly pulled her into his arms, holding her close, and glared at me with eyes that seemed to hold 3 parts coldness, 3 parts mockery, and 4 parts indifference, as if he could skin me alive. "That's enough. Scarlett," he thrust the divorce papers towards me. "Sign them. It was my fault for hurting Serena back then. My mistake. And I have to own up to it." What a performance of devoted love, but I'm the one holding the script here. The true female lead. "Fine. You leave with nothing, the child, the money in your accounts, all the assets under your name. They all go to me. I don't want the company. Mainly because I don't know how to run a company. It sounds exhausting. Couldn't do it even if I tried." "Agreed," Gavin said, his voice icy. He didn't hesitate for a second. I didn't hesitate either, quickly scribbling my name on the divorce agreement. Hesitating for even a second would be disrespectful to the money. As a former office worker, I used to survive on a measly fixed salary of $4,000 or $5,000 a month, stretching every penny. And now I've transmigrated into a wealthy, leisure-class lady, divorced with a child. I wouldn't even have dared to dream this big. The tortoises in the wish-granting pond wouldn't have taken on my case. I was afraid if I wrote too slowly, Gavin would change his mind. At the same time, I noticed Gavin and Serena sharing a deep, meaningful glance, their faces full of joy. It immediately reminded me of the female lead who was driven to her death. The scummy man and the wretched woman. What gave them the right? So, as I handed the divorce papers back to Gavin, I deliberately bumped into Isabella. Her handbag fell to the floor, its contents scattering everywhere. Oh my. What's this? A prenatal checkup report? I deliberately weighed the report in front of Gavin's eyes. See this, you fool. She's pregnant. Desperate to get a father's name on the birth certificate. If you like being the chump, go on and own up to it. Let's see if you've got anything to say after that. Then I watched as the joy drained from Gavin's face, a thin layer of ice gradually forming in his eyes. Serena visibly panicked. Gavin, let me explain. It's not what you think. What isn't? You're not going to say you got pregnant with Gavin's child the moment you stepped off the plane. Are you? Well, that would be quite impressive, I must say. I interrupted her gleefully, reveling in her discomfort. She became angry out of humiliation. Scarlett, shut up, this is between Gavin and me. I stuck out my tongue, made a face, and mocked her in a sing-song voice. Ew. Someone's getting angry, I know you're anxious. But don't be too hasty. I've heard of running away with the ball, but never doorstep delivery with the ball. Your service is certainly thorough, I noted. Isabella's panic was satisfaction. I told you not to celebrate too soon. Margaret, seeing the situation turning sour, immediately stepped in to speak for Isabella. Gavin, don't listen to this little viper's attempts to drive a wedge. Serena has had a very difficult time abroad all these years. She suffered a lot. Some things were beyond her control. Don't forget, she only went abroad because you broke her heart back then. As Margaret spoke, Serena cried. She didn't cry loudly, just let the tears fall silently. Her beautiful eyes filled with glistening tears. Even I felt a slight tug at my heartstrings, let alone Gavin. What if I'm an actress? So? I decided to be a bit of a troublemaker again. I interjected, really? But I heard she actually eloped with Xander. When Gavin heard the name Xander, even his eyelid twitched involuntarily. Yes, that's Xander. His own half-brother. Margaret and Serena were stunned. They hadn't expected me to know about this. Margaret, like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, instantly bristled and snapped sharply. You wretched girl. What nonsense are you spouting now? The sister. Why are you slandering me like this? Serena acted as if she had been grievously wronged. Margaret immediately took over from her. First, you drugged Gavin and climbed into his bed. And now you're slandering Serena? How utterly malicious you are. Actually, these were truths that wouldn't be revealed until after the original female lead's death. In the later plot, Serena never loved Gavin. She was the one who orchestrated the drugging because she didn't want to marry Gavin. She planned it so that Gavin, in his confused state, would mistake the female lead for her and force himself on the female lead. Gavin had no choice but to marry the female lead, and Serena's so-called heartbroken departure abroad was nothing but an elaborate deception. In reality, she had run off with Xander. Xander was the illegitimate son of the Gu family. His mother was a shrewd woman, who had Gavin's father wrapped around her finger. The father even wanted to leave the entire Gu fortune to Xander. It was Gavin's mother who, with swift and decisive action, forcefully suppressed his father. They divorced and his father left with nothing. If we're talking about 3 years ago, Xander, the illegitimate son, was a hot favorite to succeed as head of the Gu Corporation. Perhaps they had been planning a comeback all these years, but unfortunately, they hadn't succeeded. That's why Serena came back. In the original text, after Gavin learned the truth, he was filled with regret. He personally saw to it that Xander was sent to prison and tortured Serena to the point where she longed for death. But the female lead could never come back. The anger and sense of injustice I felt when I read that part of the plot now erupted fully. Who's spouting nonsense? Who's slandering her? Who was it that actually bought the drugs? Don't you know? Should I remind you of the process? Or perhaps we should get a DNA test to see whose child she's really carrying. With every sentence, I took a step closer to Margaret, forcing her to retreat repeatedly, her face pale. I'm not the soft-hearted, family-oriented original female lead who endured everything silently. I have no feelings for them and don't mind exposing all their dirty deeds, waiting for the male lead to slowly discover the truth and feel regret. Who has time for that? Besides, I'm not going to kill myself. What do I need his regret for? Margaret and Serena were rendered speechless by my retorts. Gavin was also staring at me in shock. I rolled my eyes at him. Actually, you should thank me. If I hadn't found that prenatal report, their next step would have been to plan how to pin that child on you. Your mother is such an intelligent and astute woman. How did she end up with a moron like you? Your brain is so useless even a zombie would spit it out and curse, ugh. A love-struck fool. I didn't hide my disdain for Gavin. In the original story, the female lead didn't want a divorce for the child's sake. Serena, relying on the bastard child in her womb, caused endless drama, deepening the misunderstandings between Gavin and the female lead. Later, the female lead's son fell ill and needed surgery. But Gavin was busy accompanying Serena, that old wretch. The female lead's mother deliberately gave the child food right before the surgery. The poor 2-year-old, who knew nothing, died tragically. The mother said, "How was I to know I would be so serious? I didn't do it on purpose. I saw little Alex looking so pitifully hungry. I was just being kind, giving him something to eat. And you blame me? Maybe it's heaven punishing you, making your sins fall upon your son. Things you steal were never meant to last. In reality, she did it on purpose because Isabella was showing signs of a threatened miscarriage. She consulted a fortune teller who said the female lead's child was overshadowing Serena's child. Of course, that fortune teller was arranged by Serena, and the threatened miscarriage was also a false front she deliberately created. After her son died, the female lead, heartbroken and disillusioned, finally signed the divorce papers and left the Gu family. Although Gavin was somewhat moved, he was still wholly focused on Isabella. He didn't even know when the female lead died. He even called the female lead during his child's full moon celebration with Serena. Finding her phone switched off, he assumed she was throwing a tantrum and sent her a message. It's been almost a year. Shouldn't you be done with your tantrum by now? Serena is, after all, your sister. She specially invited you to the full moon banquet. If you don't come, how will she save face? I haven't signed the divorce papers yet. So you're still Mrs. Eleanor. You can act out and throw fits as much as you want. But don't forget your position. When I read that part, I was nearly driven mad with rage. I felt like beating these people to a pulp. Is this the so-called tragic literature? Seems more like infuriating literature to me. The female lead was like a gourd with its mouth sawn off, not even letting out an ouch when a nail was driven into her. The male lead, supposedly a high IQ elite CEO character, was fooled left and right by a scheming White Lotus. Add to that a biological mother with a feudal first wife mentality, who scorned her own daughter but treasured the child of the other woman like a jewel. They've stacked all the negative buffs. But now that I've transmigrated into the female lead, I'm determined to turn this into an unhinged protagonist story. Gavin's aura was dark and heavy. His face was stern, brows furrowed, his bloodshot eyes fixed intently on Serena as he demanded. Word by word, is what she said true? Serena shook her head repeatedly. No, Gavin, it's not what you think. But before she could finish, my son Alex came downstairs. He had just woken up, rubbing his sleepy eyes, looking for me. He called out in a milky voice, "Mummy." My heart instantly melted. The little one was indeed as described in the book, a soft, adorable little moki ball. "Alex, Mummy's here." I quickly gathered the little one into my arms. The little guy then noticed Gavin and showed a hint of delight. "Daddy." I immediately covered his eyes. "That's not your daddy. That's something dirty." Holding Alex, I walked away, saying, "Alex, you must remember, not just any Tom, Dick, or Harry is worthy of being your daddy. Some people don't even love their own children. They really should get their brains checked." I stopped at the doorway, suddenly remembering something. This is my house. Why should I leave? So I stopped, turned around, and looked back. My gaze swept over the three people in the living room. They were truly disgusting to look at. Barely containing my impatience, I said, "I suggest you get out of my sight within 3 seconds." Gavin strode out with large steps. Serena followed behind him, weeping and sobbing. Margaret shot me a vicious glare and threatened that she'd settle the score with me later. How amusing. Go ahead. Give it your best shot. As a transmigrator with a script. Would I be afraid of her? A few days later, I saw Gavin at the hospital. Margaret was pulling his hand, hurriedly leading him towards the inpatient department. "Gavin, you're finally here. You must go see Serena." The doctor said the abortion surgery would be risky for her, but she insisted on going through with it for your sake. She almost lost her life. I was inwardly shocked. Serena, was this ruthless even to herself? Risking her life for an abortion? Impossible. It must be another story fabricated to deceive Gavin and play on his sympathies. "Look, isn't this fool falling for it?" Margaret was still chattering away. She said, "Serena wouldn't let me tell you, but actually, she was coerced by that bastard Xander back then. Serena only has you in her heart. She's willing to do anything for you. All these years, she's been held captive, forced. She's suffered immensely. Now that she's finally back, and then this. You have no idea how many times she's cried in secret." Margaret's story was a mix of truth and lies, and she even managed to move herself to tears. Wiping her eyes, "I suppose it's my fault. I revealed the future plot early, alerting the enemy, and giving the mother-daughter pair a chance to cover up the truth and spin their own tale. Maybe Serena did have a hard time these years, but she was definitely not coerced by Xander. It was just that after Gavin's father was kicked out with nothing, their family lost its source of funds and could no longer maintain their former extravagant lifestyle. Resentment built up, and they took it all out on Serena. Serena couldn't take it anymore, so she returned. She even brought Xander's child back, attempting to make Gavin the chump who'd take the blame. Now that's true love. Gavin walked straight ahead, not looking around, and almost bumped right into me before he noticed Alex and me. And his eyesight is failing at such a young age. He frowned. "What are you doing here?" Then he saw Alex in my arms was on a drip, and a flicker of concern passed through his eyes. "What's wrong with Alex?" As he spoke, he reached out to touch him. I sidestepped, avoiding his hand. I snorted lightly. "None of your business." Then I walked straight past, holding Alex in my mind. I chanted, "Idiot, disperse, idiot, disperse." Yes, I had brought Alex to the hospital early. Alex has a heart condition that must be detected and treated early. Alex is such a lovely child. I absolutely won't let him die like he did in the story. Since I've transmigrated and become his mother, It's my duty to ensure he grows up healthy and safe. To his credit, Gavin still cared about his son. He immediately chased after us. What's wrong with Alex? I'm his father. I have the right to know. This made Margaret extremely anxious. She physically grabbed hold of Gavin. Gavin, Serena is still waiting for you. If you don't go soon, she'll... I interrupted impatiently. Hear that? If you don't go soon, your precious darling might die. Good grief, even Tofu has more brains than you. Go on, let them fool you. They could talk a man with 2 good legs into thinking he's lame. I quickened my pace as I spoke. I really didn't want to get entangled with these two. Reject mental drain. When there's trouble, just let the craziness out. My words provoked Margaret's displeasure. She grabbed my arm and started cursing. You little viper, I'll tear your filthy mouth apart. What has my Serena ever done to you? How dare you curse her like that? Would you be happy if she died? Shameless creature. It's all your fault that Serena ended up like this. If anything really happens to Serena, I'll fight you to the death. I was holding Alex. She pulled at me so hard I almost fell, and Alex started wailing in fright. That old hag. Furious, I kicked out at her. Piss off. This sent Margaret into an even bigger performance. She collapsed on the floor and started wailing, you unfilial, disobedient wretch. How dare you hit your own mother? Aren't you afraid of being struck by lightning? Heavens above. I don't want to live anymore. I thought, oh great, I provoked a mad woman. Mum, Isabella rushed into the circle of onlookers. Right, another one. Today, I've truly stumbled into a nest of mad women. Isabella was wearing a hospital gown, her face as pale as paper, her eyes red. Mum, are you alright? Let me see if you're hurt anywhere. Margaret grabbed Isabella's arm, beating her chest and stomping her feet, wailing like a stuck pig. Isabella, your mother can't go on like this. I gave birth to such an unfilial monster. I worked so hard to raise her. And this is how she repays me. With these drama queens teaming up, a sense of foreboding shot up from the soles of my feet. Honestly, I was starting to regret it. I shouldn't have given in to the urge to have the last word. Seeing the crowd of onlookers growing larger, Isabella immediately seized the chance to attack me. Sister, you stole Gavin from me. Caused me to lose my child, fine. But how could you physically attack Mum? She's the one who gave birth to you and raised you. How could you treat her like this? The Gu family was, after all, a wealthy one. The affair between Gavin and the 2 sisters from the Zhu family had caused a citywide scandal. Back in the day. Now, with the old story brought up again, all the onlookers, whether they knew the details or not, were eager to gossip. They said this older sister was shameless, drugging her sister's boyfriend, climbing into his bed, eventually marrying him and having his child. I could see it now. Isabella was deliberately seizing the opportunity. That day at home, there was no audience, so she hadn't truly showcased her acting skills. Today, she was finally putting them to full use. Her innate thick-skinned nature and her talent for obfuscating the truth were truly something to be admired. Just as I was about to retort, a strong, authoritative voice sounded from nearby. Well said. Immediately after, my ex-mother-in-law, that is, Gavin's mother, strode over majestically. She was wearing a custom-made cheongsam embroidered with white camellias, accessorized with a set of jadeite jewelry, and high heels. She looked dignified and impressive, well-preserved. In her 40s but looking barely over 30, with an elegant, noble temperament, a stark contrast to Margaret. My ex-mother-in-law walked straight to my side. First, she concernedly touched Alex in my arms, then took him from me. She turned to Gavin, who was standing nearby, and said, "What are you, a corpse? Brilliant. I've been wanting to say that. What was that dog of a man doing standing there like a block of wood? Zero situational awareness. Or was it that his eyes could only see his white moonlight and no one else? Scumbag." Gavin finally, belatedly, took Alex in his arms. Mum, when did you get back? Why didn't you tell me to pick you up from the airport? I wouldn't dare trouble you, my ex-mother-in-law said, looking at Gavin as if he were an idiot. Then she turned her gaze to Isabella, looked her up and down and asked, "You're so eager to be filial to someone else's mother, don't you have one of your own? So domineering, worthy of the strong businesswoman who tore into her cheating husband." At this point, Margaret didn't dare make a scene anymore. She picked herself up off the floor, forcing a smile. "Dear-in-law, there's been a misunderstanding. Stop right there. I'm not familiar with you." My ex-mother-in-law took my hand. "My Scarlett has already signed the divorce papers. Our families have nothing to do with each other from now on." "Dear-in-law, that's not entirely true. There's still Serena and Gavin." My ex-mother-in-law cut her off directly. "Honestly, Margaret, you're the person I admire most. Only you could treat the mistress's child as your own." Margaret actually looked proud, a smug expression on her face. She thought she was being genuinely praised. She even happily accepted it. "It's the least I can do. Serena is a good child. By the way, I heard her mother is pregnant again. Probably with a son this time. Congratulations in advance. You're so blessed you don't even need to bear your own sons and daughters. But then, you never cared much for the one you did bear, did you?" The shift in topic was so sudden. Not just me, but the onlookers couldn't help but laugh. Margaret's face turned pale, then red. My ex-mother-in-law muttered under her breath, "I've seen bound feet, but never a bound brain. Are people from the King dynasty really this hard to eradicate? Let's go, Scarlett. From now on, just act like they're all dead. Let them do whatever they want, okay, Mom? I nodded repeatedly, grinning from ear to ear. With such a solid ally on my side, can I pretty much do whatever I want now? Who needs a man? As we walked and chatted, we got along splendidly, quickly transitioning from a mother-daughter relationship to something more like sisters. Then Gavin suddenly said, Mom, I haven't signed the divorce papers yet. We both turned around simultaneously and saw Gavin holding Alex, following us. We wore identical expressions of disdain. Whatever Gavin was hinting at, my dear mother wasn't having it. She pursed her lips and said, then sign them quickly. Don't delay me finding a new match for Scarlett. Then she patted my shoulder earnestly and said, this time, I'll personally vet them for you. We don't want trash like this. He takes after his father, a crooked stick. Oh, I declare, this is my real mother. Such a mother deserves a place in the ancestral hall. In the original story, this character was barely mentioned. We only knew she was a very strong woman. She showed no mercy to her cheating husband and the mistress, dealing with them thoroughly. She even advised the female lead to divorce. Unfortunately, the original female lead had feelings for Gavin and refused, so she didn't press further. She stayed abroad and never returned. It was my appearance, changing the original plot direction, that brought her back. Mom. I don't call me Mom. I couldn't possibly give birth to such a heartless son. You can marry whoever you want from now on. I won't interfere. Just don't come bothering Scarlett and Alex again. Gavin was scolded away by his mother. I didn't care what would happen next between him and Serena. I only cared about Alex's illness. The doctor said Alex's condition was detected early, and now was the best time for surgery. I immediately signed the consent form and let the doctor schedule the surgery. In the original story, Alex's illness wasn't discovered until a month later. By then, the surgical risk was much higher, and he was ultimately schemed against by that old witch. So this time, I was on high alert. I absolutely forbade Serena and Margaret from getting near Alex. I even often blocked Gavin from visiting, because I wasn't sure, given Gavin's feelings for Serena, whether he might do something irrational. I couldn't take that risk. Margaret came by twice, but both times to see Mom. It must have been hard for her. Her husband was about to divorce her and marry the mistress. Yet she still tried to suck up to Mom to pave the way for Serena. Truly a model of a virtuous wife and loving mother. Little did she know that those who on the surface flattered her were secretly laughing at her behind her back. After all, such a simpleton is a rare sight. Alex's surgery went very smoothly. His recovery was also excellent. In about a month, he was discharged from the hospital. During this time, I was on edge, afraid I wouldn't be able to change the plot's direction. According to the original story, Alex should have died by now. Soon after, I would also succumb to depression and take my own life. Thank goodness. Thank goodness, indeed. Going crazy can counter all sorts of nonsense. At the same time, another plot point arrived ahead of schedule. My nominal father, Vincent, and Margaret's divorce case went to court. This was also supposed to happen after the female lead's death. Margaret would end up with nothing. Even Serena would betray her. Only then would she finally remember her biological daughter. Reflecting on how she mistreated her own child for the sake of an ingrate like Serena, filled with regret, in the end, she set the Zoo family mansion on fire, dragging the entire Zoo family to hell with her. The ending was satisfying, but the female lead was still dead. Even if she saw everyone regretting how they wronged her, what good would it do? Death is like a lamp going out. Once you're dead, it's all over. I attended the court hearing. I saw with my own eyes how Margaret lost the case. The Zoo family's assets had long been transferred away. By Vincent, she got nothing. She was completely uncalculating, her mind full of archaic wife virtues. Even when her husband cheated, she never considered divorce, striving to be a virtuous and magnanimous wife. She never imagined she would be the one getting divorced one day. After leaving the courtroom, she rushed at Vincent, lost control, screaming hoarsely, Vincent, why are you doing this to me? I never objected to you finding women outside. I even treated your love child as my own. What have I ever done to wrong you? Why must you divorce me? I felt her entire world had collapsed. Her face was filled with despair. Vincent didn't mince words. He stated clearly, yes, you've never wronged me. I'm the one who wronged you. My son must have legitimate status. This part was quite similar to the original, except now, Vincent's son hasn't been born yet. Whereas in the original, the child was already 1 year old, about the same age as Serena's child. If Margaret hadn't been driven mad by the stimulation, their whole family would have truly stepped over the female lead's corpse to achieve a perfect, happy ending. I can do it. I'll definitely treat him as my own dad as long as you don't divorce me. I'll do anything. Margaret groveled, humbled to the dust. But Vincent just wanted to shake her off. His eyes held only indifference. How much affection could a chronically unfaithful man have for his first wife? Margaret saw Serena and begged as if clutching a lifeline. Serena, you're on my side, right? Plead with your father for me. Ask him not to divorce me. I've been so good to you. I'll be good to your brother too in the future. Quick, talk to your dad. Say something. Margaret was somewhat unhinged. After all, she had once vowed to make the mistress's child see her as a real mother. She had proudly declared that as long as she lived, all the other women would just be concubines. Normal people would only take such talk as a joke. but she truly lived by it. Thus, she successfully turned herself into a laughingstock. Serena wasn't as heartless as her father, especially with so many eyes watching. She had to play the good person for a while. Margaret, don't be like this. This is Dad's decision, I can't interfere. But don't worry, I won't forget how good you've been to me. Serena's use of Margaret made me laugh. She changed her address so quickly. This completely broke Margaret. Her voice trembled. You ungrateful wretch. I've wasted my affection on you. A child not your own can never be truly raised as your own. It just can't. Then she naturally thought of me. Her eyes searched the crowd for my figure. When she saw me, I turned and left without hesitation. Not giving her a chance to save such a mother is better off without. Besides, I'm not the original owner. I have no emotional ties to this so-called family. I won't soften. Bending up like this is her own fault, unfortunately. I still couldn't shake off Margaret's pestering. First, she bombarded me with messages and calls, crying and begging for forgiveness. After I blocked all her contacts, she came to my house to make a scene. Her main goal was still to get me to intervene and persuade Vincent not to divorce. I truly felt sorry for her. Can she not live without a man? To avoid being morally blackmailed, I came prepared. I took out my phone, opened a live streaming app and pointed it at Margaret. As long as you confess everything you've done to me over the years, I'll forgive you. Let's see if she has the nerve to say it in front of all the netizens. Sure enough, Margaret soon slunk away in disgrace. I felt a wave of desolation. I wonder in the original story, how much of Margaret's remorse and tears for the female lead were genuine? The day Gavin personally delivered the signed divorce papers, before leaving, he asked me, "Can you tell me where the original Scarlett went?" I was a bit surprised. I never thought Gavin would be the first to realize I wasn't the original female lead. In the original story, Gavin only discovered his deep love for the female lead after her death. So, does undetectable deep love really exist? As someone who's never been in a relationship, I don't get it. She's dead, vanished into thin air. I replied. Gavin was silent for a long moment, then nodded slightly. He left without another word. Anyway, I can't figure out what's going on in Gavin's mind. Whether he's sad or regretful. I just want to live a good life with Alex. Unfortunately, the tree may crave calm, but the wind will not subside. After Serena's mother became the legitimate wife, she immediately held a wedding with Vincent. On the wedding day, Margaret went and caused a scene, even injuring someone. She was finally taken away by the police. Serena became the genuine Zoo family heiress, frequently appearing at various public events. Actually, it was to find opportunities to get close to Gavin. She even used the media to create buzz, making people think she was about to marry into the Goo family. But when reporters asked Gavin, he just coldly said, "I will make those who maliciously spread rumors pay the price." Within 2 months, Gavin bankrupted the Zoo Corporation. Serena, failing to win love and instead being publicly humiliated, even losing the entire Zoo family fortune, still refused to give up. Instead, she turned her spearhead towards me. She brought up all those stale, ancient stories again, even accusing me of being unfilial. I was truly minding my own business at home when trouble fell from the sky. I didn't want to bother with her at first, but she just had to come looking for trouble, trying to discuss me. Then don't blame me for not being polite. I proactively unlocked the original plot. I exposed all the details of Serena and Margaret drugging me, her elopement with Xander, her pregnancy, abortion, and other events online. In the original story, Gavin did all this. But since I've now taken the female lead's place, I should naturally seek revenge for her. Serena became infamous overnight. No one could have imagined that the seemingly pure, innocent, and kind-hearted Serena was actually so behind the scenes, even to timing. About half a month later, just when I thought everything had settled down, I suddenly received a call from the police station. They asked me to assist in the investigation of an intentional arson case. I immediately thought of the fire at the Zoo family mansion in the original story, but that didn't make sense. The Zoo family had been bankrupted by Gavin, and the mansion was mortgaged away. Inspector Leo, in charge of the case, cleared my confusion. He said, "We've looked into it. After the Zoo family went bankrupt, your father Vincent and his family have been renting this underground garage." I glanced at the scene photos. It was completely charred beyond recognition. Inspector Liu continued. "We found 3 charred bodies at the scene. One of the female bodies was pregnant, confirmed to be Vincent's current wife. The other 2 bodies are a man and a woman, most likely Vincent and Serena, but we need further confirmation." I knew that meant DNA testing. I cooperated by giving a blood sample. In the original story, Margaret died with them. So why were there only 3 bodies? Are you sure it's arson? I asked, because the plot's direction always seemed to change unintentionally. I couldn't be sure now. Positive. The arsonist is your mother, Margaret. She was just released from detention yesterday. Yesterday evening, someone saw her near the rental place. So, it was definitely her. The male body was undoubtedly Vincent. But who was the other female body? Margaret or Serena? For some reason, I suddenly felt uneasy. My intuition told me Serena wasn't dead. After leaving the police station, I immediately drove home. I planned to pack my things and take Alex to another place. Tonight, I'd also ask Gavin to find us some reliable bodyguards for close protection. Just as I reached the outskirts of the villa area, I saw from afar a nanny, Sister Wang, holding Alex and looking around by the roadside. When she saw my car, she ran towards me. Waving at me as she ran, she shouted, "Miss Zhu, just stop there. I'll come get it." "Get what?" I was immediately on alert. I quickly got out of the car and ran to meet her. At that moment, a Graven suddenly charged towards us. Serena screamed excitedly, "Scarlett, go to hell. Go to hell." She sure enough wasn't dead. Her face was covered in blood, terrifyingly ferocious, and now, I had nowhere to avoid. I could only push aside Sister Wang, who was running towards me holding Alex, and prepared to use my own body to withstand the violent impact. Bang! A loud crash sounded in my ears amidst the billowing smoke and the pungent smell. I saw Gavin driving a black car, ramming Serena's vehicle and sending it flying. Neither Alex nor I were harmed in the slightest. That Serena died on the spot. She had used an AI voice changer to call Sister Wang, tricking her into bringing Alex out to get something. She knew I would risk my life to save Alex and deliberately set this trap. Gavin was rushed to the hospital. Unfortunately, his injuries were too severe, and he didn't make it. After Gavin's funeral, I donated all the real estate under my name and took Alex traveling around the world. I guess Gavin has probably met the original female lead by now. I wonder what they'll talk about.